Democrat Party is turning into a complete disaster. But you know what? We do have to have two legitimate parties for a healthy democracy.
States that we really need, that Hillary Clinton really needs to maintain. Let's just put this on the board. We need to make Hillary Clinton needs to keep Pennsylvania.
So first out of the gate, having the media on your side, it's not helping you. Let's be fair. Nobody wants to watch any sort of sporting game when the referee is blatantly biased. You're losing badly. You know, Obama you're hailing as a hero, but you know what, to be fair, he's been the best gift that your opposition could ever have wanted. He's basically eviscerated you. And then you're talking about the popular vote. The counties in the 2016 election show that, you know what, you got a few strongholds. That's it. In urban areas, you are not reflecting America. You got to start to listen to the people.
This was a white lash.
Temper tantrums are not going to help. A bit of honest reflection will. But sadly, I don't think it seems like you've learned anything from this. I mean, you're pumping out conspiracy theory nut job stuff.
They tried to obtain some of the Hillary Clinton materials they believed the Russians had hacked and stolen because they wanted to use them for political effect on behalf.
There does seem to have been some kind of contact between his campaign and the Russians.
So I will ask you the question that people ask me in diners and in the drive-through and on the airplane and the airport. What does Russia have on Donald Trump and the administration?
This Russia shite is about as believable as the fact that people are stopping little Donny Lemon when he's going through drive-throughs or at diners to talk about Russia. It's complete and utter nonsense. That you lost the election because of this.
Who else was at your home? Were you alone?
I was alone, yes.
The whole night?
Well, yes, the whole night.
Well, I don't know why that's funny. I mean, did you have any in-person briefings? I don't find it funny at all.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. Because we're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business. Right? Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Your candidate was shit. I hate to be blunt, but that is the reality. She was an absolute nightmare.
People putting children to bed tonight, and they're afraid of breakfast.
Let's be real. They're in an absolute mess, and they've got to make some major changes before people are actually going to vote for them again. You keep defining people by their genitalia, and then how they use it and who they use it with. It's peculiar. It's really, really odd. Most people really don't give a tinker's cuss who does what with who, as long as it's lawful. Why you keep on about this just is beyond me. And it's also beyond a lot of American people because we just don't want to hear it. It's really weird. Just stop it. Here's another odd one. For some inexplicable reason, you want to put a hyphen in front of everyone. Italian American, African American, Hispanic American. We're American. Just stop it.
I'm going to be talking to white people. I think we're the ones who have to start listening to the legitimate cries that are coming from our African American fellow citizens.
When you're white, you don't know what it's like to be living in a ghetto. You don't know what it's like to be poor.
And here we have Beach House Bernie, Three House Sanders, talking out of his arse.
Not only our Muslim communities, but African communities, Asian communities, Hispanic communities, and the wave still continues. It's not going to stop, nor should we want it to stop.
The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. non-stop. Non-stop.
Well, that sounds good.
Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority.
Yay?
In the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America, from then and on, will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing.
Look, I understand the politics behind putting people into little tribes, far easier to control. There was approximately 50 tribes when the Romans invaded Britain. Keeping them in little tribes is far, far easier to quell uprisings if you're keeping them that way. But don't pass it off as some sort of moral high ground. It's not, it's nasty. It's not American. Stop it. America is the greatest social experiment this world has ever seen. People of all ethnicities have come to this country, amassed wealth and success like they could do nowhere else in this world. So if we're going to allow ourselves to be put into little tribes, we're going to be setting ourselves backwards. The Democrat Party is going to render itself unelectable if it continues down this path. This is bumper sticker politics. Fairness is a subjective term and it means many different things to many different people. You can't have this as the core of your beliefs.
It's all about fairness in our country.
And that principle is fairness.
At the front in the fairness fight for fairness in this country.
This is really about a basic question of fairness.
It's all about fairness in our country. And that principle is fairness. At the front in the fairness fight for fairness in this country. This is really about a basic question of fairness.
Fairness is described as impartial and just treatment or behaviour without favouritism or discrimination. Yet when we look back at their obsession with people's genitalia and putting us in little tribes, we can see that that is the last thing on their mind. They actually are playing favourites and they are discriminating for some inexplicable reason.
As the President of the United States, every life in this country matters. And we have to respect the tradition in this country of people who want to defend themselves and their family from violence. Senator? There are people are going back and forth here for 10 minutes here. There are people at high levels in this government who have bodyguards 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The average American does not have that and deserves the right to be able to protect their family. At the same time, I've been trying to reinforce that we need to remember two other parts of our history here. One is the very complex history of the Civil War itself, where in John Hope Franklin's own numbers, the most eminent African-American historian, only 5% of the whites in the South owned slaves, and only 25% of the whites in the South had anything to do economically, while at the same time, there were 4 slave states that remained in the Union during the Civil War: Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware. And so if you were a young person being called to duty during that period, this was a very complicated decision to make, and we should remember that. More people in this country call themselves political independents than either Republicans or Democrat. I happen to agree with them. Our country is more important than a label.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Democrats in years past understood this. People like Sam Nunn, Scoop Jackson, Mike Mansfield, John Kennedy, among others. Americans are disgusted by all this talk of Republicans and Democrats calling each other the enemy.
The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
Instead of reaching out across the table and actually finding ways to work together. I know what an enemy really is from hard personal combat. The other party's not the enemy, they're the opposition. In our democracy, we're lucky to have an opposition in order to have honest debate. It's creative, it's healthy.
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Our political candidates are being pulled to the extremes. They're increasingly out of step with the people they're supposed to serve. Fully accept that my views on many issues are not compatible with the power structure and the nominating base of the Democratic Party. That party is filled with millions of dedicated, hard-working Americans, but its hierarchy is not comfortable with many of the policies that I have laid forth, and frankly, I'm not that comfortable with many of theirs. For this reason, I'm withdrawing from any consideration of being the Democratic Party's nominee for the presidency.